another year, another 52 weeks of gaming, and that means that we're gonna go and do the same thing that we've done for the last 2 years and talk about a different game each week in a very similar format to what we did last year. So going to talk about the background of the game, going to give a review, and then going to talk about who should play it and if I'm going to continue on based on my experiences so far, as well as talking about what systems you can go and find this game on. So let's just jump right in with week 1. Alright, so week 1 is Insane Robots, made by Planiac, which is based out of London in the UK, as Planiac is a play on Brainiac. Insane Robots is a game that's a card fighter, so not the traditional Pokemon Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh games that you go and see. Instead, you're battling as robots, and you have this deck of cards to go and use to battle other robots in tournaments and different arenas, as well as against another player, either AI or an actual player, local or online, with tons of different cards to go and choose from, tons of different robots to go and play as, tons of different augments to boost your skills and abilities and make each card game unique. The game has an over 15-hour single-player campaign, which does require a lot of time to go and level up different robots in it for that final fight. What I thought of it, I thought that it was a fantastic card game. Growing up playing things like Magic and like Yu-Gi-Oh and those sorts of things, to go to a card game that I want to say similar to like Gwent was last year, that it's unique in its own right. In this, it's much simpler in the idea of you have these attack and defensive abilities, as well as different boosts that you can go and have in your fights, and it's a basic numbers game. So if your attack is higher than their defense, you're going to go and do damage to them, and obviously if your defense is higher than the attack, then no damage is going to be done. You kind of waste a turn and waste energy that builds up over time, and it is a bit of a strategy, like all card games are, because you need to kind of go in and plan, okay, am I going to go and save my cards for a big move on the next turn? Am I going to go and do some combos and build up some moves there to go and either like hack the opponent and weaken their cards, or throw a glitch to hopefully randomize it and make it better in my favor? Or am I going to go and put an Uber lock on my side to make sure that I go and not get hacked or have a glitch or a swap happen so anything goes in and goes wrong? It's a game that requires a lot more strategy than I thought it would for how simplistic it looks. And I want to give it to Planiac for doing that and making a game that is so innovative and so thought-provoking on how it's done and the overall story that's behind it all with the robots. And you play as like Franklin or in the beginning, and you can unlock these other robots to play as. But you can go through and build up towards this final fight, that the final tournament is basically your team versus the enemy team. And so my issue that I ran into is I only played as one character throughout the entire thing, so I had one good character and 3 bad ones in the fight, and they had 4 really good ones. So it wasn't an even match, and so it's something that you do have to experiment with different characters throughout the campaign, because they have these different augments, and augments are abilities. So things like you can go and it's easier to go and put a lock card on, or you begin with an offensive battery charge, but it costs double than to go and put another one down. So there's bits to it that are a bit more interesting and require a lot of thought and planning into it, and it's not a card game to go and take lightly. It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of interesting actions that can go and happen. Then you have outside of the card games itself, you have the maps that you're going and playing on, which you have to kind of, it's almost turn-based in that sense, that you go and move around and have to go and battle the other robots that are in the campaign. But you also have other elements to go and deal with. Like, for example, if you're underwater, you might have to go and deal with the current there, as well as what's called the Ring of Death. So the map slowly gets smaller and smaller and makes it more difficult to traverse it. And you have augments that are meant for battle and augments that are meant for the map. And so it's knowing how to play both fields of battle to your advantage, because you might be dealing with an acid cloud, but if you have an augment that stops damage from acid clouds, then you can sit in the middle of it and you're perfectly fine. But otherwise you could go and be losing damage on the map itself and not even in a battle. I can't tell you the number of times that I came so close to going and winning a tournament and getting that final fight, and then suddenly it's an electric storm comes in and goes and does damage to me and I lose. And it's the chaos that makes each game that you go and play interesting. No game is the same, and so you don't know how it's going to go, and you can always go and pull a come from behind victory and pull crazy moves off and do these ridiculous things that can only happen in something like a card game because of how over the top it is with it, and how much you need to go and plan and work within the means that you have, but also know the means that you have and understand them fully to really go and get it. And it's a fun game. I enjoy it for what it is, and I have to go and say that to start off the year with something like this that I wasn't expecting to be this fun of a game and this intense of a game is a good sign for me, in my thoughts at least. And with all of that, I think that the people who would want to go and play something like this would be the people who play different card games, who enjoy thought-provoking games. So people who play Magic, who play Yu-Gi-Oh, who play Gwent, who play Pokemon, because card games are strategy, and so it requires a lot of thinking, and it's different from the other games that you have cards that you have to go and use, but they're not as in-depth as the other card games would be, in that you just have like different cards with powers on them, like power levels, and then different abilities that you can kind of use, like the hack, glitch, swap, lock, those sorts of abilities. And so it's how to go and use them, and that's the cards themselves are simple, but how you go and use them is quite complex. And so I think the people that enjoy the more complex card games would go and enjoy a game like this. And all those people that want to go and play it, you can go and play it on PC, you can play it on PlayStation 4, and you can play it on Xbox. It's out on all of them right now. I do believe Xbox had it as a Games for Gold for January, or for December, excuse me, because it didn't do it for January's different games, but it did have it for December, I do believe, for at least for the Xbox, but it is out for PlayStation and Windows as well on Steam, so you can go and play it on any of those options that you want. And I think everyone should really go and check it out, besides the people that I said it, because Insane Robots is a fun game. It's a fun card game that is very deceptive in how you have to go and play it. And to me, that is what makes it fun.